Introduce our hosts.
Fantastic. I am Andrea Singrio. So excited to be with you today. And we have the Loop product team with us, and we're really excited to let them take it away. So I'm going to go off camera and let them introduce themselves. And I think they're going to do some Q&A for you all at the end. So thanks, team, for being here.
Thank you so much. I think Patrick on the line here is going to share the deck and we'll get started. Awesome. I'm Trisha Van Hollebeck. I am actually a marketing person, but don't worry, we will get the product people speaking before too long. I'm just going to give the little intro to Loop here for those who don't know it. And I'm not seeing the deck yet. It's spinning. Aha, there we go. Okay, let me take control. All right. So today we'll just quickly do an introduction to Loop, then I'll hand it off to some product folks to do demos, and then we'll do some admin capabilities, information sharing, and then of course we'll have time for Q&A. But if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We have a few folks from our teams on here to help answer them. So first, why Loop? We'll talk about what Loop is in just a minute, but we really like to ground ourselves in the customer needs, and in this case, in education needs. So what we've been hearing from customers so far is that you've got some strong needs around preparing students with future-ready skills. We're in a real crazy time now. There's a lot of change going on, and students more than ever need to be prepared for an unpredictable future. And a lot of higher ed faculty are constantly publishing papers or collaborating with others on them. So this process around creating, reviewing, and finally publishing papers takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And so time reduction is something we hear from customers. And finally, you've got people who are working across different devices. They have different apps that are their favorite apps, and people really like to stick with what they know. So we were thoughtful about Loop in terms of being able to go across apps and devices. So how does Loop help solve these problems? We thought about 3 different areas when building Loop. The first is all about collaboration. So that's one of those future skills that students are going to need no matter what. And we see now that people are really able to iterate quickly together. This is very different from how we used to work, more siloed, but now it's about collaboration. So Loop has all these possibilities for building on each other's ideas, commenting, reacting to each other. Then we hear when you're doing something like publishing a paper or any other project really where you're working with others, that you need everything in the same place. We're all getting tons of documents, tons of messages. And when you're working together, it's great to have that central place where you can pull it together, and Loop does that. And finally, speaking of all the different tools that people use, we know that you want to go across these boundaries we have. So you want to be able to work in Outlook or in Teams. And Loop has components, which you'll see in a moment, that stay in sync no matter where they are shared. I'm going to play a little video for you. Hopefully the sound will work, but let me know in the chat if it's not. This is a under 2-minute video that shows you a little bit about Loop, and then I'll talk you through some of the key pieces.
Say goodbye to the frustration of jumping between apps and losing track of documents and ideas. Microsoft Loop transforms the way you work, so you can think, plan, and create together like never before.
Okay, hopefully that gave you a sense of some of the challenges and solutions we were talking about before. I know it goes really fast, so I just wanted to kind of reiterate these three main pieces of Loop. The first is components. These are like magical pieces of content, so you can share the same component across Outlook, in Word for the web, in Whiteboard, in Teams, in several Teams chats and channels. And as people edit that piece of content, it stays in sync across all the places it's been shared. Then we have pages. Pages are part of workspaces, and this is where you can collect everything that you need from your team when you're collaborating. This is where you can comment on each other's work, react to it, really build on each other's ideas. It's just a very fluid canvas for that. And then Workspaces brings all your pages together. You can link different documents that you have, different Word files, Excel files, etc. That's really where you can have everything in one central place. Now, I know we're moving pretty quickly, but I'm just going to touch on the licensing for Loop since we've heard that you all have questions around that. So Loop is now generally available in A3 and A5 licenses. It is included as part of the student use benefit. A1 license holders can still create Loop components. Okay, you can do that in Teams chat and channels and Outlook, all of those endpoints. And then A3 and A5 license holders can still share a workspace with A1 license holders. A1 just can't create new workspaces. I'll just pause and take a look if there's any questions in the chat for that. We've got one of my great colleagues, Megan, on the call too, who can answer questions about licensing in the chat. Okay. And then finally, we get a lot of questions around how does Loop fit in with all the apps I'm already using? And this is how we think about it. We think of Loop as an amazing place for co-creation and ideation, especially with a group of people. And so it's kind of for that messy part of our project. And a lot of people still use OneNote and Loop. OneNote is still great for note taking, especially for personal note taking. Loop is, again, really meant for that fast iterative collaboration. So hopefully that helps you put it into a context. And finally, just a note about somebody who's been using Loop in higher ed. This is Dr. Megan Weber. She's a human nutrition professor, and she's been using Loop to collaborate. She loves how she's able to coordinate her research. She can collaborate with patients and really do all of that iterative process in Loop. So if you want to hear a little bit more about what she's used it for, please feel free to ping us and we'll spend some more time on that at another date. For now, I'm going to turn it over to the really exciting part, which is the demos. So we have Rebecca from the product team. And Rebecca, go ahead and take over.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Tricia. So I am Rebecca. I'm a product manager on the Loop team, and I'm super excited to share with you all a quick whirlwind tour of both how Loop works and some of the latest functionality that we think can make your job easier by using Loop. So I will just go ahead and jump into it. As you all have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll aim to answer them while I'm presenting. So with Loop, our vision is that Loop will help make your work easier by enabling you to spend less time searching for what you need and more time actually doing your work. So I want to show you a few ways that we're aiming to do this. One key tool in the Loop app is Loop Workspaces. You probably heard Tricia just mention that, and they're used to gather all of the content you need for a project in one place. We recently added functionality where Loop will intelligently surface all of the content that's related to the project from across your Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So let's say I'm starting a workspace for a new project that's kicking off and I need to gather content for it. If I go ahead and say, create a new workspace, I can gather content from maybe it's PowerPoints, maybe it's Word documents, maybe it's other Loop pages. I'll give that workspace a name, and Microsoft 365 will intelligently surface all of those documents that I may need and include them in the workspace automatically. So instead of having to kind of go out and search for everything I need, it's automatically compiled for me. All right, let's go to the next slide. Here we go. So let's say you have your workspace created. With any Loop page, Copilot can also help you kind of create and refine your content for a project. So this can be used with your working group to maybe write and refine teaching content, maybe brainstorm new ideas, create structure for a meeting that you're planning, whatever you and your working group need in the moment. So you should be seeing a video right now of Copilot writing on the canvas. What you can do with Copilot is really whatever you need for that specific project. And then the other thing is, because Loop is built for collaboration from the ground up, anyone on your team can refine the output that Copilot has written. So that's you plus your teammates plus Copilot all working together. You can see here one of my teammates took the output that Copilot had written by my prompt and said, actually, we want to list this slightly differently. And so she asked Copilot to refine that, and Copilot output the results. I can see exactly what I asked Copilot and exactly what my teammate asked Copilot, and all of your teammates can contribute to this. But it's not just for creating new content. Copilot can also help you rewrite your existing content so you can communicate your ideas more clearly. So this could be changes to formatting. Maybe you want to turn a list into a table. Whatever you need with your existing content, Copilot can help you refine that or restructure it to be more clear. All right, so let's say you have your workspace up and running. Copilot has helped you generate some ideas. You have pages. You're happy with how it's going. We know that a lot of people tend to reuse the structure that they're using within a project for their next project. So maybe I am doing a research project and I know that it's going to be similar the next time around. I can actually go ahead and save a page as a template to reuse later. So you can see right now I've saved my page as a template. When I go into the template gallery, I'll click on this spec template. I can say I want to go ahead and use that, and it's reused for whoever on my team needs it. So this is a great way to kind of speed up your work, prevent you from doing kind of this busy work of just recreating structure that you've already used on a previous project. Finally, we know that Copilot and Loop can make it easier for teams to know what to create next. So let's say, for example, you want to ask Copilot what decisions were made on this page, or what are some suggested next steps. The goal of all of this is to help make it easier for you to find what you need, organize it, and make progress with your team quicker. So these are some ways that we think that both Loop and Copilot can help you do that. So in addition to making project work easier, one of our other goals with Loop is to make it easier for you to stay in sync with your team. And this could be no matter when or where they're working. So this could be with teammates across the country, maybe. However you need to catch up, we're building Loop to help you do that. So one of the things that you'll notice when you open the Loop app is you can immediately see where your teammates are within their workspaces and which pages they're on. So this is a great example I'll just use from my own work. Let's say I'm on a call with people. We haven't even necessarily shared our screens yet, but I can already tell which page people are on and jump exactly to that page and dive into the work. We want Loop to kind of feel like this physical workspace for you and your team to get work done, no matter where you're actually located. So in addition to knowing where you can find your teammates, you can also quickly and easily catch up on your projects by checking on the workspace status. So here's an example of a conference that my team and I were planning for. We had this workspace to organize all of our content. And if I needed to quickly catch up on the project, I could just click on that workspace status. It'll give me insights, it'll give me tasks, it'll tell me what was latest updated, everything I need to quickly catch up without having to read through every page of the workspace. And if you're working on a project and you need to quickly recap updates, one of the other things you can do in Loop is to quickly record a video of yourself just directly on the Loop canvas. So this can be a great way. Let's say a teammate was out and you want to catch them up quickly. Rather than typing everything out, you can record a video of yourself. Another thing that we found really helpful in the tech space, at least, and I can imagine would be helpful for IT admins, is you can record your screen and record yourself speaking over the screen. So maybe you need a tutorial or quick instructions for a team. You can quickly record that directly on the Loop canvas. The other thing you can do to stay in sync with your team is to mention your teammates where you might need their input or attention. So when you get mentioned, you can filter those notifications by project, you can mark on red, whatever you need to quickly focus on whichever project you're paying attention to. And those notifications are synced, so you'll see them in Teams, for example. So you can see your workspace status, you can record a video, you can mention your teammates. One of the other things you can do to stay up to date is to summarize a page using Copilot. So this could be a page maybe my teammate wrote and I just want a quick summary, or it could be one that I wrote and maybe I want, let's just say, a summary of a research paper that I've done. I can add that summary at the top with Copilot. In addition to summarizing your entire page, you can also recap changes you've made. So in this example, let's just say I'm revising a spec that my teammate Daisy has written. Once I've added my revisions, I can say recap those changes with AI, and Copilot will recap the changes I made in a quick list. I can mention Daisy and say, hey, here are the revisions I've made. Go ahead and take a look. And Daisy will get a notification about that. So one of the other things that is really important to mention is with all of this content that's generated by Copilot, we know that it's super important to understand who wrote what. So with any content on the Loop page canvas, you can see exactly who wrote what text and when, and that includes content that's generated by Copilot. So in this particular example, I'll just go ahead and play the video again. You can see when I hover over the text, I can see Copilot wrote some sentences. My teammate wrote some others. You can see exactly what text is highlighted based on who wrote what, and it shows exactly what time that was written. So we know that's super important in terms of trust with AI generated content. All right, I know that was a super quick whirlwind tour, so I fully expect to have questions in the chat. I hope that you all found this valuable. And the next thing I want to do is hand it off to Patrick to cover some IT admin questions, because we know that lots of admins have lots of questions we want to get answered. Thanks so much, all.
Thank you, Rebecca. And yes, I think that hopefully we can cover some of the questions with the coming slides and stuff, but I'll just try to speed through them. So Loop for IT admins. One of the things that we want folks to think about when managing Loop is that managing Loop is really like managing any other files within the Microsoft ecosystem. So Loop creates .loop files and Loop workspaces, which are equivalent to SharePoint sites. All the tools that you use for storage management, data recovery, classification, workflows, labeling, etc., work on .loop files. And Loop workspaces work just like SharePoint sites do too. And so we're going to talk you through some of the capabilities and stuff, but there is if there are any concerns around this, we also have a switch in the Microsoft Admin Center that allows you to enable, disable Loop for the whole tenant. You can also manage Loop component integration in 365 using OCPS file policies and such. And there's a link at the bottom of the slide that we'll also share out afterwards to our admin blog where you can get a lot more of this information in detail. So another question that we've gotten from customers is, where are Loop files saved? And so where the Loop content was originally created determines its save location. So if it's created in the Loop app itself, it will be stored in SharePoint embedded. If it's created outside of the Loop app in places that have dedicated shared storage, like a Teams channel, it'll be stored in that dedicated SharePoint storage for that team. And then if it's created outside of the Loop app, in all other places that don't have tightly associated collaborative storage, like a Teams chat, Outlook, email, Word for the web, Whiteboard, it'll be stored in the component creator's OneDrive. So what you'll see here is all of what we currently support in terms of lifecycle management, governance, and compliance. Things like Intune management, Purview e-discovery and legal hold, information barriers, version history, recycle bin for files and such. So this is just a sampling of what we currently support today. And then I'll segue into resources and such. And so we've got the Loop community, creator community has a bunch of resources that we have out there. We'll share out some of the links as well, but we've got a really active group of creators creating content on how to use Loop and such. And we also have a Twitter handle, X handle, that you can follow from the team and such, and training available in LinkedIn. So I'm going to pause right there, and we also have, and it's doing suggested to me to say, like, asking for, we'd love to get your exhaustive feedback on Loop. So I'm going to share a form in the chat so that you can fill it out. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions.
While we wait for hands to be raised or questions to pop up in the chat, this is awesome. Like, I'm just so excited to see it. It's something new for me to tinker with now that I'm back. So super thankful to have Rebecca, Trisha, and Patrick on with us today. So I know I saw questions popping up through the chat. Looks like Jason has one. What about changing ownership of a loop? Any thoughts there, team?
Yep, that is something that we are working on, working with the SharePoint embedded team to support. Like, it's on our near-term roadmap and it's coming soon. But that's definitely a big concern that we have with and that we've heard from our customers. So.
I know that that's top of mind as we head into Q4 for educators that are going to be changing K-12, teachers change grade levels and all of that. I'm sure, I'm from the K-12 space, higher ed semester ends, they don't work this summer, they might work in other places, things like that. So definitely let us know. We would love to have you back, Patrick and team, when you've got some big updates. In fact, I'm just going to venture to say, you know, we'd love to have you quarterly if possible, because this is one of those things that this team has been asking for, and Dwayne and his team have definitely helped to get you some of that feedback. So I'll just come off mute. I forgot how hard it is to lead a call, and I haven't done this in a while. So what questions am I missing? Okay, Amy has one. Do you know when Loop for EDU options will catch up to other versions? So are we at parity or are we behind?
I believe we're at parity. Now there is one item, and it's the support for meeting notes within Teams, Loop meeting notes within Teams, that we are working on right now. So that there is some concerns about safety and security for K through 12 for Loop meeting notes in Teams and such. And so that's the one piece that we are working on to support as soon as possible. So.
But that means that we can't use the agenda and that type of items. There's, you know, a list of things from that. And so our users go out and watch videos about how to do all these cool things and then come back to us and say, why haven't you turned this on for us?
Yeah, definitely hear that feedback. The alternative is that the template that we use to create in those meeting notes within Teams is also available. So if you create a new Loop page, I think at the very bottom right, the template that one of the templates you can find is called a meeting note, and it will insert the same things in that page as well. So that is a short-term workaround, but we definitely hear you that getting that last feature parity for Teams meetings and stuff like that is something that we are pushing hard to get through. But there are some safeguards for K through 12 that we need to implement. So.
Awesome to have that workaround. Greatly appreciated. Hopefully, Amy, you can take that back to the K-12s that you work with, and we can maybe get a little demo of that for the K-12s. I can work on I don't have a ton on my agenda other than the 8 million emails that I have tomorrow. So I'll see if I can't make a little video for you in my K-12 demo tenant to get that out for the team. Marge, the chat's moving too fast. I saw very many people say you had a good question. Can you just come off mute and ask, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
In my world, I mostly work across tenants in our system. And so I'd love to use Loop. It'd be really great for many of our activities. Any timeline for cross-tenant usage?
Yes, that is another big ask that we've gotten from customers all across our customer base and such. And so we are working on that as as soon as we can. We are going to start testing this out with a limited audience soon. I don't have an ETA to share at this point in time, but like it is one of the top asks that our team has gotten across every single customer segment that we talk to and stuff like that. So pushing hard. No exact dates yet, but maybe that's something that we can announce, Andrea, like what you mentioned at our next time we come.
Yes, that would be absolutely great. So question for you with Marge's question, a lot of times our product groups education tends to be an afterthought. We have some TAP programs and some pilot groups, but I feel like it would be great to have, especially like Marge said, high ed cross-tenant institutions be able to, I know I'm based in California now, and we have the CSU that kind of all have one management structure, but are different campuses and things like that. And they do a lot of collaborations. I think, Marge, I know you're in Texas, but I don't remember. Are you a part of a high ed system looking for that similar type of cross collaboration? I know Georgia, where I'm from, they have the Georgia State University system where they do a lot of that as well. So how would it be possible to include some education, or are there options for pilots as you do that? Can we potentially support some piloting in the future?
Yep, and we can follow up after on that one. I know that we have a early adopter program with some EDU folks in it already and such.
Perfect.
So that's we can definitely talk, follow up on that one. So
cool. Okay, Dwayne has his hand up, but were there other things I missed? We have 2 minutes left, friends. Dwayne.
There's a lot of chat in the chat around what should I use, Loop or Teams, and I saw, yeah, we're not going to give you a prescription for what you should use, but I think it's fair to point out the differences, because I see this on social media that people get confused between the application of Loop and the application of Teams, like what do I use it for? And remember that Teams is going to be conversational. It's going to be meetings. It's going to be file storage. Loop is fantastic for collecting feedback, generating ideas really quickly, and they complement one another a whole lot. So, and I'm talking specifically around Loop workspaces versus creating a team. I see Rebecca came on camera, so maybe she has some thoughts on that too. Did I jump in front of you, Rebecca? I'm sorry.
Not at all. I just realized my camera's off, so I thought I'd turn it back on.
Okay.
But I think you answered that beautifully. Yeah.
I love the speed of Loop. It is a project manager's dream to be able to share out pages and links and portions of pages as components and collect information from people. So I believe that they complement one another very well.
I really like that, what you said, Dwayne, and maybe we'll end it here, but maybe, we've done some things where we've had the community share out examples of how they've been using it for Power Apps and Power Platform and things like that. And I think you have to figure out what your best practices are, or what's the best workflows and things like that for you individually. And maybe we've opened up a new tool for you to be able to do that with, but you need some examples. And so if that is something, I'm happy, as we think about what's going to wrap up this season of the show, what we can share on those things. Because I know when Teams first started rolling out, I gave my opinion on what I thought the best way is to use it. While it's not necessarily the one right way, it gave a lot of people a starting place to be able to figure out what their norms and expectations for tools were going to be as well. And I agree, better together. They really do complement each other. I love a Loop. I love it all the time. I use it day in and day out in Teams, and we'll be doing even more now that I'm back, for sure. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and end our recording for today. This will get posted shortly.